Alright, so welcome to EverQuest II Expansion and Beyond. So this is for Tears of Veeshan, which is our 10th expansion for EverQuest II. So we're going to do some introductions here to start out. First, my name is Akil. I'm creative director for EverQuest and EverQuest II.
Mora, I'm McCall, known as Kaitheel, and Quest II.
Michael, Xelgad, Ganz, Systems Designer.
Nandy, Szots, Zoltaroth, technical director.
I have no voice. I'm Kyle, Kander, the lead.
I'm Longdale, senior producer of EverQuest II.
This next slide is a lot of people, most of us. Let's see, that's everyone. Smoke jump. So yeah, Tears of Veeshan, our 10th expansion. We know we loved it so much in our last one, so we're doing more content, younger content like the expansion. We have a big overland zone, we're going to have more solo and heroic dungeons, more raids, more quests and missions. We're also going to have some features. We're going to have the Chairman Clash, we saw that in the last panel, and a new set of alternate advancements, Dragon Game alternate advancements, along with 20 points additional. And the story so far, I'm sure you're all familiar with where we've been going with the story for EverQuest II. But in GU66 and GU67, we've been focusing around this Tears of Veeshan. And the fall of the new Combine Army. So in GU67, you saw Kara from Wind and Lyndro. Thank you. Lost the time. And so on this next slide, in case you haven't seen it yet, we're going to show the big spoiler with the nice event we had in the last game update. Hopefully there's sound. Okay, it's not going to go to the next slide.
So Toby will do all the sound for us. Well, there is sound.
Special shout out to Tom Toby and Jason Warner, who spent many, many hours working late, trying to get everything synced up so that came together. It was probably the most ambitious cinematic event we've done in EverQuest II, and these guys really put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. So if you give them a round of applause. So the story overview for the expansion is the Keeper has been flung through time. She's been lost all time, and Terrafrum is looking for her, and he's looking for more of the Tears of Veeshan. And when Yelanek died, and went to what we call the Eternal Broodlands. That's where dragons go, because Veeshan is gone from Mora, and so they can't move on to Veeshan's plane, so they get trapped, they get stuck in the Eternal Broodlands. Oh, actually, no, go back. Sorry. One thing that's cool here is Terrafrum is using the Tear of Veeshan. He's actually, he took Temple of Veeshan and he raised it up out of the ground. So now it's this flying, fully operational tactical station. So here's some screenshots from Vespir, the Eternal Broodlands. As Holly pointed out in the keynote yesterday, you'll see in here that the areas around the dragons take on a lot of the visual characteristics of the dragons. And in here you can see a bunch of the dragons that are familiar to you if you played EverQuest and EverQuest II. These are many of the dragons who have died through Nora through time. Yes, dragons. So as I said, Terrafrum is raised Temple of Veeshan out of the ground. Yelanek is kind of your he's your guide through Vespir. He's the one that's kind of teaching you and letting you know where to go and what to do. And while you're here, you're going to learn about some of the other dragons. To name a few, we've got Harladar and Fakadar, Boshi, Yen, Darathar, but then there are going to be some other dragons who you'll probably be familiar with if you know the lore as well. And one of the themes that we're introducing in this expansion is this idea of draconic threads you see here. So dragons are very, very long-lived. They're ancient. Yelanek is the most ancient among them. And over their lives, they kind of get this long view of time. Instead of thinking of time as these discrete locations, they look at them as threads. And so when they think about going to alternate realities or traveling through time, they kind of treat it all the same way, just going to different threads. So in this expansion, you'll be going to threads. You won't necessarily know if the thread you go to is yesterday or tomorrow or in EverQuest I. So here are our dungeons. We've got Temple of Veeshan, which is the biggest dungeon we've ever seen, we've ever done in game. You should go to the art panel because you'll get a really good idea of the scope of this dungeon when you're there. It's broken up into 3 wings for the heroic version at least. It's all going to be tied into one for the raid. We've got the core of Nexus, which is just a piece of Nexus where if you're familiar with Morathian lore, Nexus was the teleportation hub that was tied into the center of Loveland. And then we've got 2 shishs. Before Postload. Or Postload. We've got 2 Shishar-themed dungeons. We've got the Chamber of Stasis and the Stratum with the Protectors. In there, you can see lots of Shishar architecture. You're going to learn a little bit more about the Shishar lore, but the zones areas have been taken over by Naiads, who, because they're a snake-like appearance as well, they think that the Shishar are their gods, and so they've been worshiping them. We've got the Fractured Hive, which is a Bixie-themed dungeon. The Bixies have taken over a small section of Gup, and so you're going to get to see what's going on with the Bixies there. And then we've got 2 High-Keep dungeons, which you get to learn some of the lore of High-Keep as well. There are a bunch of merchants that have been living in High-Keep, and again, as Holly said, they dug too deep and they took over some of the goblins. And so now we're going to take a look through some of the dungeons. This is Temple of Veeshan. As we said, it's our biggest dungeon. The entire dungeon is flyable. We're just going to be looking through one wing here. There are actually 3, and so the scale of this thing is just mind-boggling.
It's hard to really see that because you aren't seeing an NPC in the same room, but it's massive.
Tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Nathan walking down the hallway, and that's the scale of looking at here. And so here's the Chamber of Stasis, one of our Scissorthean dungeons. And here's High Pass. There's some merchants there. They're holding their ground against the goblins. This is the top of High Keep. So you see they've kind of got their barricades there. This is their final fortification against the goblin invaders. Here's some goblins having some fun. That goblin's about to play some domino with some books. There's some pages being thrown around by goblins in there as well. Here's the main hall of High Keep. If you're familiar with EverQuest I, that's the front entrance. This is the re-envision of High Keep. And, here's the Nexus core. This is, we're showing you the power that runs the Nexus RAM, the Nexus, and all the energy contained in it. And mechanics.
Well, as you may have heard in the last panel, we're adding the Chandler class, which is a leather-wearing priest that uses a bow and has a construct dome that helps them as their specialty heal mechanic. We're also adding the Dragon Advancement tab, which is 4 new lines and it's based on archetypes. And there's a picture of the two Chandler customizations. Those are old pictures, as you can see by the icons. But if you saw the last presentation, it had new icons. And here's the Dragon Alternate Advancement tab, which is just, as you can see, there's 4 lines. They're each special. I can't speak today. They are each targeted towards a specific aspect of gameplay. So this one's a fighter one, and so there's a damage line. There's going to be a self-survivability line, a solo line, and you'll be able to move some points around. And hope you guys enjoy them.
So then this is expansion and beyond. And so what is beyond? What's coming? We're going to continue to deliver some great content for you guys. Continue to do content. And we're going to do more Fabled dungeons. Yes, we're going to KOS next. And more great stories. We want to continue to push the storytelling. And this time we are going to wrap up Ages in for real. No really. And I want to touch on this a little bit because we got called out on this. And we fully planned on wrapping up the Ages in this summer with this event. But when we got into it, we got talking about it, we realized that Careful never really got a chance to be that done. We talked about him a lot, and we talked about the things that he'd done, but the first time we saw him, he was asleep in a bubble. And I just felt really anticlimactic to go right from that to whatever it's going to be at the resolution. So we wanted to belong to it. We wanted to give him the time to actually be a threat to Mora. So when that final confrontation happens, there's some actual real emotion and meaning behind that when it happens. And also we're going to be completely revamping Dungeon Finder, adding a group builder to it. I think he went over that in the last panel. And then a brief look at what we've got in the future. Some awesome dinosaurs. I think that's it for our presentation, and so now we will open up the floor for questions. So many people that we weren't planning on it, but lots of people on the team had asked for that, so I won't promise it, but I will say definite maybe.
My question is based on the range of what you said, the 20 main clubs.
Can everybody else who's not asking the question lower the volume because we can't hear you? Thank you.
So with our smaller guilds, which we're not going to top here, like the Sirens, Sleeper's Tomb, takes us more than 2 days, great days, which are less than a week, to finish it. Now this 20 is going to be near impossible for our smaller guilds to go through it. Is there a way to make the lockout timer longer? Thought about it? Okay, but I mean, go back to the other ones too, make them so that we have some time to actually finish them. Those are smaller guilds.
What was the second one?
No, the same thing, but make it applicable to the The existing ones? Yeah, because some of us can't, I mean, the smaller ones we can finish, but like Sleepers 2, we can't finish in 2 raid days, which is a for us.
Sleepers 2 is what, 3 days?
No, 7 max. I mean, we don't want it shorter. We don't want it shorter. We want longer. Yeah, longer. So that we have like, 2-3 raid days to actually finish it, for smaller kills.
What would be a good amount of time for something the size of
Like 10 to 14. So we have 3 raid days actually, most of us raid twice a week, the smaller days. Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so you announced the addition of Tier 4 guild halls coming with the expansion. The question is, are these all indoor guild halls, the 2 layouts? What sort of item count are we looking at? And has something been done?
It's actually almost identical to the Tier 3, but it has additional floors below it. So you'll probably, if you decide to switch, you'll be able to move your stuff around and pretty much stay where it is, but you're going to have additional floors below it to do stuff.
So it's the same giant courtyard sitting
Yeah,
in
it's just
Tier 3.
wrong here. Yeah.
Has any, now I know in the Tier 3 guild halls, people have a lot of issues with lag. Has anything been done to sort of optimize that, reduce it, chunk it up like a dungeon?
Currently, no, we're going to have to
Hello everyone, my name's Tim. I love our director of YouTube about the Tier 4 guild halls and what Kyle said. It is in the same position. It hasn't added before. The dock is 180 against what it was in the Tier 3. They're kind of built a little bit completely different on the back end, so you can't easily move, maybe with the layout editor. Otherwise, you have to kind of redo everything from the top of it. Sorry.
And the item count on those, it's going up from Tier 3?
It'll go up, we don't have to set that number yet.
So with the Eternal Broodlands, will we be seeing ladybugs?
Yes, absolutely.
So there is 2 rules about the Aetherneer, and make no mistake, Vesper Isles, the Eternal Broodlands, is in Aetherneer. So there's 2 rules. If it is undead on Norath, that creature or that soul is not in Aetherneer. She is undead and on Norath currently. So then Vox cannot be in Aetherneer. The other rule about Aetherneer is that there is no undead in Aetherneer. So you don't see zombies, you don't see skeletons, and you don't see ghosts.
So no very religions.
There you go.
Hello, here's hoping this question isn't too terribly controversial. I want to talk about the difference, at least historically and currently, in how expansions are delivered to players. How they're split up. So historically, we're talking Sentinel, Space, Rebellious, Online. I could get a friend back into the game and say, hey look, buy Destiny of Valiance, you get everything beforehand, if you subscribe to Gold, you're good to go. Bring a friend back today, he has to buy Chains of Eternity, he has to buy Discovery, and then he has to subscribe to Gold. Are you going to be changing up how this is divided? Are you actually getting Discovery or back up into this now? Or are you going to be able to say, hey look, go back to the old model, pay $40, get current, or are you going to be keeping in something more?
We've got some announcements coming up, so we know this has been an issue, and with this expansion especially, we will be including Velius with it. We are also looking at now providing Velius for free as part of the free content everyone gets. So that, especially for the heroic characters, that's obviously important, because allowing that for free, we need to allow you to get to Velius to play that content. We've also got some announcements with regard to Age of Discovery. It seems, and I think you've been asking us for a while, to probably break up some of those features and offer those individually. Yeah, so we'll be looking into doing that fairly soon.
I just have a question about an old EP1 zone. Is Dragon Acropolis ever going to make it in?
Ever?
I haven't seen it yet, or yet Velius.
Well, if you follow the lore, Western Waste is in sad times. So, even though Dragon Acropolis wasn't really in Western Waste, it was a portal. So, maybe. Yeah, not no.
So I just want to recap something that I talked with the gentleman over there, since Ms. Longdale, you're here. last panel, there was a lot of questions about, well, are we going to be able to save this and save that and load it on the fly and do this and that? And Gans's response was, well, you saw it only took me 10 seconds to do. My response to that, and I'm sure a lot of people that are new to your game, our game, is you can do that? That exists? What do you mean, advanced raid window? There's no current tutorial or information for any new player to grasp some of the tools that people who've played the game for 5+ years take advantage of. I know he wrote that down, but since you're here, I wanted to ask you to look at that. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I believe, not just on my behalf, but for the team as well, we know that it's a big problem because this game is incredibly complicated and complex now. We're always going to be looking at what we can do for a newbie experience and to improve our tutorial system. Akil also himself, he's got some really good plans that he wants to tackle. So we promise to continually develop and improve the game, and we know that's important, and we know right now too, especially with heroic characters, this is a good time for players to come back to the game, and for us to invite new players too. So we'll definitely be looking at it, definitely, for sure.
Also remember that there are some fans who put out some phenomenal tutorial videos that you can watch. Yeah, Jeff will have some great tutorial videos, so that's a great place to point people when they're reviewing on our events.
Recently we've had a great fight, Bane come out, and it's pretty much been outside the box. And a lot of great feedback has come back from it. Everyone's enjoying the new style, the new, basically style of fighting. Are there any plans of thinking outside of the box type fights of this coming up? We haven't seen anything like this in a while, that's far.
Let's call it expanding the size of the box, not the inside of the box. Yeah. And yes, absolutely. We like to, Kyle's a lead designer, so he's actually been focusing on getting the raids more focused on fun and
yeah, what we're really trying to do is, and we do have a new focus for raids. For those of you who've done Simon's Garden, I realize it came out and it's relatively difficult for most people. Going forward, you're probably going to see a lot more content for the majority of players and expansions, and you're going to see stuff that you're going to probably have to butt your head up against in GUs. We do try to make sure there's content for everyone. We're not designing in a box anymore, so the whole box.
So the traditional fighting style.
Right, we're really trying to focus on making sure that one of the big focuses is that content is designed so that it showcases players, and especially tanks. I know there's been a lot of complaints that pretty much the default or de facto tank is a bruiser now because Bob's hit like Mack trucks. We're going to be going away from that, or at least varying it greatly. We're really trying to make sure that you guys can use your abilities. I personally don't like the idea of being even on a raid and you have abilities that do nothing. So we're really trying to focus on that. Raids are now a council. It's a raid council. It's not one guy. And it's including Xelgad, who is the all-knowing, all-seeing as far as what players can do and can't do. And he has a lot of feedback and a lot of say in what we're doing. So, yeah. And Bane is a good example. Carlos Ninja did this thing. It's fun, it's different, and we definitely have plans to try to mix it up and have more of that kind of stuff so it doesn't feel like the same take and spank or tedious stuff. We are also striving to be a little less draconic. Not draconic, draconian, sorry. We're going to be a lot more draconic this year. Draconian as far as penalties and stuff like that. So we're looking more for cascading failure, like giving you a chance to succeed rather than just.
Okay, with a lot of these dungeons that we're going to be getting, you guys are really heading into the lore that's been in the game from the start. The Nexus, the Book of Destiny has all kinds of information about when it shut down, what we saw when the moon exploded, and High Keep, which we've been told traditionally is the home of Farsi's trading company.
Currently in EQ2, but where are you going when you go to High Keep?
That's actually what I was getting to was, are you guys addressing this in terms of the in-game lore? Yes.
Yeah, that's sort of the reason why I spoke on the threads, is because we're going to be pretty vague about when you're going to be visiting these places and kind of what kind of continuity you're going to be visiting them. And so that's some of what you're going to uncover through the lore of the expansion is when and what continuity are you going to be going through the core of Nexus or hiking. And the answer might not always be what you expect or obvious or even right. So we're aware of that lore. We're not going to step on it. We're going to do justice.
I had to double check on that because after Sentinel Spade, I got to double check if that's on the lore. Seriously, you guys had lore in that expansion that contradicted with lore in that expansion.
I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus.
The gear of the new expansion, how much better is it going to be than the current gear? In other words, what is the role the current gear we have now going to be in the new expansion?
At least 0.1. Actually, we have an entire itemization panel right after this one, so we'll be addressing all items. It's going to be, we're going to have a 10-minute break after this one's over, and then we'll be going into great detail on itemization. You can ask any question you want there. But for now, it will be better.
And you will be able to keep some stuff.
Maybe. Yes.
Some stuff. All right, so just two quick things. Approximately how large are the eternal runelands?
Yeah, it's big. But he can show us a picture. Yeah. And you haven't seen the map yet. You haven't seen the entire layout. It's going to be kind of seen snippets of it. It's big, but there's also a lot of airspace in its realm. So not Kunar big, but big.
One thing I should add about it is that all of the dungeons are actually connected through Eternal Broodlands, and so you're not going to be like traveling all over the world to get to your dungeons. You'll be able to go to Eternal Broodlands, find your room, head to your dungeon without having to teleport around. So.
All right, and may I hug Tom Toby?
You'll allow it.
Do it.
So, trying to figure out how to, well, like actually, on the topic of expansion and on the topic of larger, when I came to the convention last year, and I'd asked a question about mounts and places, and I got a response by saying, well, some mounts are just too big, you can't create mounts and stuff like that. And then obviously, over the last year, obviously, now I get a whippering button in my face every time I go to use a raid. So, I guess my question is, because I'm always looking for, and this is a little bit more levity, but whatever. I'm looking for something like an elephant mount or something else, other opportunities, other larger mounts and stuff like that. Are there things that we're looking at, with the expansion? Like that thing right there. So, are we looking at new mounts as well with the new expansion? Or as well?
We'll have new mounts coming with the expansion. We've got a couple planned. But they're not, you're not going to be riding on elephants probably anytime soon. We want to fit the doorways still.
Well, I can walk through that. That's it.
Yes, he just said getting silver cars.
So in relation to not only the upcoming expansion, but in
pastimes. Can you talk a little bit about how quests are designed? What I mean by that is it by consensus in terms of, you guys as devs all say, this is a good idea for a quest line or a storyline, or is it that one individual deals with it?
A few. It's a few people.
Okay.
Yep. And it used to be that there was, a bigger staff for this team, and that it was divided up by overland and or dungeon. Whereas now it is a crew that works together totally in tandem. And usually when you see an overland, it's now instead of one person, it's two, but it's also that those are the overlands of that, of that GU or that expansion.
Okay. The reason that I asked the question is just as an example. A couple of GUs back with the Othmere and everything.
Yeah. Well, you mean in Cobalt Scar, or you mean back in the expansion?
Back in the expansion. Yeah, Values, right? The Othmere and everything. I really totally enjoyed that quest line. I was like, wow, this was really fun. Which is going to lead me to another question in a minute. And then in Cobalt Scar, on the other hand, here with the Othmere, I completely felt exactly the opposite. That's just my personal opinion. What I'm saying is it literally felt like a different set of hands was on that quest line, if you will, in terms of...
It was 3 years later.
Okay.
And so you are absolutely correct.
Okay.
The good thing about that is that designer did go back, completely run through all of the original stuff, knew that, took the parlance, took the different phrasing, and was able to incorporate that into this new one. Also, that the original designer always had intended undead Othmere, and that was what happened on the other side. We honored that, even though she was no longer with us.
I see.
But it's also worth mentioning that the Othmere are kind of are in a different place in Cobalt Scar than they are in Vallée, and so your feelings toward them are naturally going to be different. They're going to react differently because they've moved and they're dealing with a different set of influences.
Which leads me to my last question, which is, there's obviously all this incredibly rich lore to EQ2, and I don't mean to ask a new question, but it seems like the ability to catch up on all that lore, to be able to really sink into the history as somebody who maybe clicked through a lot of quests a long time ago, let's say. A lot of times when somebody even comes to some of these breakout sessions, and you're talking about all these different things that happened, I sometimes sit there and go, oh boy, yeah, that happened, okay, sorry. So is there an official place besides the forums? Because sometimes it seems the forums can be a little bit...
No, there is not one place where it's got everything collected. We don't even have one internally.
Oh, okay.
Let me add on that as well. It's intentional that we do that, right? We don't want to put all of the stories out there for the world for you to see. We want people to have to go through the game and gather them. One of the things that I'd like for us to focus on more is before something important happens, I'd like for us to do things out of the game to help you catch up. Like we had Jeff Bard wrote, who's hiding somewhere, wrote the... Oh, there he is! He wrote the Vision story that went out went up a month ago. And we put that out to catch people up in case you didn't know that Fisher was Antonia's father, because there are people who would have missed that lore. And so we'd like to do... sorry, spoiler alert. So we'd like to do more stuff like that to catch people up out of game, but we're never going to put out like a full lore compendium. But we'd like to do more storylines to give people lore and play for that.
Also, you heard last night with our partnership with Wikia and your contributions to that too, that's becoming a really good place and a resource for a lot of the stories that we're telling, and we're going to try and do a better job of that. So, yeah, you can check that out.
Hi, I have two questions that are separate. First one is, honestly, kudos to you guys, first of all. I've really been enjoying the new content. I really love the fact that I can take my casual rating guild, we can clear easy mode, we can go do stuff. It's awesome. I just want to say, think about ×2s again, because those are always good to have in expansions, because we raid 3 nights a week. Our Monday night is always our whatever we can get together, and sometimes you don't have more people. And ×2 help our people who have to work or whatever catch up. And that's something always we love you, we do ×2s. We know it's hard, extra work, we're sorry. But the other thing I want to bring up, and this is something I have we get a lot of new people in free to play. I love these new people. They're great. They're awesome people. I bust my butt behind their Chronos sometimes because I want them to be there. But I can't go to the station store and I can't buy the item on first because that's not available for me to buy. I've gone through the whole thing. I can't figure out where that is. I can't buy the item on tuners for my station cache. So I'd love to be able to do that. And the other thing is, if I take them through questing, if they go out through questing, if they have the expansions, all the loot that drops is legendary. They cannot equip the loot they get from questing. And I think that that's really a disservice to our free-to-play players. They can't go ahead, buy the expansion, and do the content and wear anything that they get. There's nothing they can learn.
We'll take a look at that. We're always evaluating where we are with free-to-play. The item unlockers, Abby's probably in here somewhere, but we can probably fix that as soon as we get back.
That would be great.
Yeah, and then we'll, of course, too, we'll take a look at what we're doing with the quest here, et cetera, and the rewards, and how difficult
Easy
it
to
is.
stay so that they can at least equip their quest up here. That's great. But that's all I have.
My question actually has to do with some of the dragons that have died in both EQ1 and EQ2. We've now had crossover and change of eternity from Etherneer. We've had Kaitheel, who died in EQ1, show up in our Etherneer. How is that going to impact for dragons that have been killed in both? Are we going to have issues with that?
No. So, want to take this Nathan? Sure. All right. So, the way Etherneer works is so much complex story. Okay, so the way that threads work is if you think of like the Mississippi Delta, where like there's a single point of time and then it branches and then it branches again. You've got that one branch where choose a row backs up a point of time, and then that's where the thread for EQ1 and the thread for EQ2 happens. Right? Thinking about it as a river, Etherneer is essentially all of the ground around and between the river. And so as big things happen, new threads are broken off and spin off in new realities. When anything dies, it goes to Etherneer local, right? It's just kind of like the area that's kind of the soil that's closest to the riverbed around it. And so there can be multiple dragons of the same name in Etherneer, but they're not going to interact with each other unless something major happens. And actually something major happened in G67, and Lyndro, she actually gets flung through Etherneer to EQ1. And so in their expansion, our EQ2's Lyndro is actually there and creating issues, and they've got to figure out what to do with her. So.
And the other question has to do with feel free to correct me on this, because I've seen two different counts. I'll actually ask this question: is Sleeper officially dead in EQ1? Because I've seen so much weird stuff with that. And that leads on to the second question.
I'll have to get back to you.
Okay. And this should lead to the second one. If he is dead in EQ1, he should be in Turtle Lands.
But we heard it's local.
Yeah, well, that was going to be the reason it's coming up was it was either in the keynote or in EQ Next Debut. They mentioned our Sleeper has shoved into Eternal Broodlands with the temple.
Oh no, that's us. So our Sleeper is shoving into Eternal Broodlands local to our thread.
Okay.
So that timing
So that's not the question there. Thank you very much.
My question is about the prestige abilities. As an assassin, for an example, there are abilities where if I use the bleeding ability, I get a buff that has charges, and if I get this other ability, the more charges I have, the more damage it does. But new players, or if I play a class I've never played before, that bleeding ability line is based on the old alternate advancement system where you had all the different lines. There's no way for me to tell them what a bleeding line is unless I go to a website like Wikia to know what these bleeding abilities are. Is there any way to show that more clearly in game?
So we're always working on clarity, right? And it's not a going process because our game is constantly evolving. And things like that, yeah, it's unfortunate that I didn't update it as well as I should have. And I would definitely go through and look and see if there's any way we can flag abilities so they're more visible. I can't promise when that will happen, but it will definitely be something that I'll see what I can do.
It still says in the mouse
have two questions regarding guild halls in the new expansion. The first one is, will they be increasing the number of items you can have in the guild hall?
The Tier 4 guild hall will have more items than Tier 3. And I should
Yeah,
point
but
out...
what about the already existing tiers? Will they increase those numbers?
No.
Okay. My second question is, now that the achievement counselor is no longer needed, will they be adding a reforger as an amenity in the guild hall?
So we don't have any plans to add a reforger. We definitely are looking at thinking what we can do for our achievement council. And one of the options was he's just going to be a dance commander, make everybody dance constantly. No, I'm just kidding. But we are looking into something we can do for that. Yeah, he also still helps you with your character development pane right now, but we are looking for options. But right now, Reforger is not one of the ones we're really looking into, because one of the things that does get people into the cities.
Okay, two related questions here. Obviously, we're getting the new AAs, which is fantastic. Looking forward to that. It's really awesome. But we've been 90-ish for a really long time now. Is there any opportunity that that's going to go up? Is it possible to go up? I mean, rumors are even that we can't go up because I feel like mostly the Y2K issue, but we can go. Like they hardcoded that it's not possible to go in estimated digits. I don't know. Maybe you could dispel the rumor, which would be really awesome.
We just increased the level. I mean, and
right, but past 100.
Oh,
we can. It's not. Yeah.
It's not no, and the game is going to be around for a while. So.
Right. Yeah. No, that's what we're wondering. Which brings up the other issue that as long as we're going to be kind of metering this thing out, what's happening right now is that we're 95 again. We've got a new set of gear coming up. Is there any idea of how you're going to address all these trade skill recipes that now are really kind of broken and useless?
Well,
we're kind of re-itemizing those.
When we change fate, there are a lot of things like trade skills that do sometimes get forgotten. It's unfortunate. So right now we don't have any plans of going in and looking at all of the existing old recipes. However, we do constantly add new trade skill recipes and new things for you to make. I don't think we have any plans right now on going back to like Vallée's recipes and changing them. But
say, like, for example, you have a ring that's going to be able to put up something that's like 108, and the new gear is starting like 150, 160. So I've got recipes within the same tier 10, and a huge gap in between them.
So at least for the expansion, we are definitely going to be integrating trade skills into more aspects of gameplay than just, I'm going to make some handcrafted gear. You will be seeing trade skills make viable and useful items.
I'm even talking about like mastercraft and stuff that is lagging behind, and I don't have additional recipes to be able to fill those things in.
Right now, I'm not going to go too much into itemization to this in the next panel, but we do intend to have trade skills will have things that they're going to be making that will affect everybody from the Solar to the Raider. Right now, we don't have any major plans to change the existing mastercrafted, but there may be new things that you'll be able to craft, especially extremely powerful weapons and stuff like that. It will be integrated with the expansion.
Okay, I think we're going to end here and take just a quick break. I know there's some people shifting around from different panels, so that's our expansion panel. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break. Stick around, we'll answer your questions after we go through the itemization details, but the itemization